What's going on YouTube? Cloverbells here, back with another Series 14 video, and this is not a spotlight video, but this is what we call our meta-analytical video here. And meta-analytical, is that even a phrase? No, a meta-analysis. But what we're looking at specifically is Dragonite here, and it turns out that Dragonite right now is 11th in usage. That's right, top 11, right? And you might say, how? You know, this is something that's a little unexpected for Dragonite. And if you remember, just like from a competitive standpoint, like what was Dragonite's role in the past? It was more like a support mon, you know, in Sword and Shield, like as a Aqua Jet user for Colossal, and you know the ability, you know, focus makes it so that you can't get intimidated, you can't get faked out, and then you're able to get off that Aqua Jet to set up Colossal's weakness policy. That was in the past, but then as like an own offensive threat, it never really took off, because it's kind of slow. And in the Dynamax format, where yes, you do have access to max airstream, but the 4x weakness to ice was just not great. And there was a lot of things running around where, like, you know, if they just click one Ice Beam, Dragonite would just drop, right? But now, with Terastallization, Dragonite all of a sudden can get rid of that weakness by changing its type. And you might say, well, is that even enough? Like, just because you can change its type, like, why is it so high in uses right now? And first of all, where did I get that information? I got it from this website called Picolytics. And again, if you're a new VGC player, this is a very, very good resource where you're able to take a look at the top used Pokemon in the meta at the moment. And it's very good because it can give you some ideas for team building. It can show you what's popular, you know, in terms of EV sets, and, you know, items, move sets, abilities, most commonly used stuff for everything, even like common partners. So for example, like Fluttermane is number 1, and you know, no surprise there, by the way. And then you can take a look at some of the more common sets that it's running right now, and then you can go down here, look at the popular teammates it has, and then even like popular Terra types. And then, although it's not available yet, you can look at the items and abilities that it's most commonly used, right? And then as I was looking through this list, and then first of all, we'll do another video after this one where we talk about like the top 10 Pokemon here, maybe even like the top 20. But as I was going down this list, I noticed right here that at number 11 was Dragonite, and I wanted to look at why it was so high, okay, and what kind of sets people were using that had, you know, some good success with Dragonite early on. And my disclaimer here is, again, I'm not saying that like Dragonite is all of a sudden S tier, okay? It's very early in the meta, okay? And I want to repeat that. It's very early. People are trying new things. They're trying different things. And, you know, you're just experimenting. And that's, of course, expected. It's a brand new game, brand new format. So people are trying all kinds of different things with all kinds of different mons. But that being said, there is still the standard top 10, and even like 11 through 30 is actually no surprises, maybe in terms of like placement, but the mon itself, like, yeah, you expect it to be relatively high. But Dragonite was something that, you know, I put in the C tier. And if you look at my old tier list, and we'll look at this again in the next video when we look at the top 10 mons, but I had Dragonite in the C tier just because it had a pretty interesting role. Like, again, it had access to inner focus, which means you can't intimidate or flinch it, and it does get access to Tailwind, so that's good speed control for it. And in addition to like the fairies, you do get access to a steel move with Iron Head, right? And that was, you know, a pretty cool set with Dragonite. Now again, you do also have like Dragon Dance stuff, and then something like, well, what was it, like Dragon Claw, right? And then, you know, that was a pretty good set for it. But then, like, you know, you realize, like, in terms of Dragon Dance, why not just use Dragapult? That's probably better. It's the fastest mon in the format. It does more damage anyway. Well, actually, not in terms of like base stats. Like Dragonite does have that. But, you know, usually the common rule is if you're the faster dragon, you always win, right? Just because your Dragon Stab hits the other dragon for super effective damage. Even something like Garchomp to me was also a better option than Dragonite. And remember, we had Dragonite. We had Garchomp and Dragapult in the A tier, right? And we'll talk about both of them in the next video. But again, back to Dragonite, why is it, you know, still so high at rank 11? Like, even then, you know, what are people doing with Dragonite that's making it so good? So let's take a look here in Picolytics. And again, first of all, if you look at its stats, base 134 attack is actually very, very good. Good HP bulk, 91. Defense and special defense, 95 and 100. So this thing is very, very bulky. And the speed tier is the only interesting thing with base speed 80. But again, you have ways around it. We just mentioned that you do get access to Tailwind, and you do get access to something like Dragon Dance, where you're able to get a +1 speed and then potentially sweep, right? But now this is where things got a little interesting as I was moving down Dragonite's website over here. If you look here, I want to see if I can make this bigger. It turns out that E-Speed, aka Extreme Speed, was the most used move on Dragonite. 42%, right? 42%, not like 10%, not 12%, 42. So nearly half the Dragonite sets that you're running into right now is using Extreme Speed. And that makes a lot of sense, right? Because remember, if you look at Extreme Speed over here, in terms of what it's supposed to do, it pretty much, it's a priority move. It goes first. So even though Dragonite is slow, you know, if you go for something like a physical E-Speed with base 80 attack, not base 80 attack, but, you know, base 80 damage with this 134 attack stat, this is doing a lot of damage, right? There's no Dynamax anymore, so it's not like you have double the health where you can take this calmly. And if Dragonite's holding anything like a Life Orb or getting any of these Dragon Dances off, Extreme Speed is hitting like a truck, okay? And it makes a lot of sense. And then if you look at teammates, all right, now you can see where the combo is coming into play, because look at the most used teammate with Dragonite. See, this is why Picolytics is such a very, very good site. And we use this a lot back in Sword and Shield. But look at this, Chien-Pao, 52.9%, basically 53% of Dragonite's teams have a Chien-Pao on it. And why? So let's take a look at that. Well, what is Chien-Pao doing for Dragonite? So we haven't covered it yet in a video. We will eventually. We decided to do Chi-Yu first, but Chien-Pao, Sword of Ruin ability, again, decreases defense by 25%. Everybody has 25% reduced defense. And then you combine that with Extreme Speed, and now you can see where the combo is coming into play. It just hits like a truck, okay? And then, you know, if you just go down this list even more, like there's an ad there. Look at the Terra types. You know, the most popular Terra type for Dragonite is Terra Normal, 33%. Okay, and then you start to understand even more, like, this is where things are coming into play. So if you go Terra Normal, okay, combine this, you know, with Chien-Pao's ability, Sword of Ruin, all right, then combine this with maybe either Dragon Dance or maybe something like a Life Orb, where you're doing a crap ton of more damage. Excuse my language, but now you can see why Dragonite is being used a lot. And again, it's still early. I'm not saying this is like an S tier or A tier strat. It's just something people are trying to make good use of Dragonite, and it makes a lot of sense. Like, you might as well try and use this set with Dragonite, because it's you know, again, early on, you know, you want to try and explore things that maybe people aren't just trying just yet, and they don't have counters for it. So yeah, and it's a pretty cool idea. I think it makes a lot of sense. But now the question is, like, what would you do with the rest of the squad? So if I go back to Dragonite over here, back on Picolytics. So how can I build my rest of the squad? So, like, again, this is where you get an idea for some of the rest of the teammates besides Chien-Pao. And here are some options. Here are some popular options. You know, we got Fluttermane, Amoonguss, Arcanine. I expect that, that big three, you know, very, very nice core. And then from here, you have more other options, right? So you have Roaring Moon, of course, Chi-Yu, right? If you're going to be running Fluttermane, I think Chi-Yu makes a lot of sense. Sylveon also for your fairy option, you know, also very good into Trick Room. Just makes sense as well. If you're going to be running Trick Room on Fluttermane, I think it's okay. I don't know about two fairies on the team, but, you know, that's an option. Gyarados, another good bulky water type to give that Intimidate support. And also, you know, it just puts on pressure along with Chien-Pao because you're a physical attacker. And then, you know, the list goes on, but like these are some like lesser used options, but you kind of see the more commonly paired partners to Dragonite, and if you were to build a team around it. So actually, let's just build a team with this core. This core makes a lot of sense. So let's take a look here. So we've got Dragonite, we've got Chien-Pao, we've got Arcanine, of course, Amoonguss, okay, and then what was the fifth one? Fluttermane, right? So this is a pretty good 5-man core, right? Because Now with Dragonite, with your Terra type normal, again, you're doing a lot of damage. You have your Dragon typing, you have a Fairy type option, and now all you really need is a Steel option. Okay, and we can put that here in the last slot. But if in terms of like combinations, again, Arcanine, you know, with something like Flare Blitz, Snarl, Will-O-Wisp, and then Protect in the last slot, or maybe even something like Helping Hand, or Arcanine also gets extreme speed, by the way. But yeah, you can kind of see how this team can do like function together. And then Chien-Pao, something like what's his dark move? Throat Chop, I believe, or even Crunch. So it gets Icicle Crash, but then I think it also gets Ice Spinner. Yeah, so like the 5 base power versus the sacrifice and accuracy, I think it depends on you, the player. But if you want the accuracy, you go Ice Spinner. But if you want a little bit more damage, then you just go Icicle Crash. But again, 90% accurate, right? So it's up to you. But we'll just, for the sake of the video, we'll just put it as Icicle Spinner. But Throat Chop, Icicle Spinner, and then you get something like another physical move, maybe something like Sacred Sword. And then maybe just Protect in the last slot, right? And then Dragonite, again, we talked about it. You have access to Tailwind or Dragon Dance, and then you have Protect on your 4th slot. It really depends on you, what you're trying to do with Dragonite. But yeah, and then like Amoonguss here can just help you set up, right? Because you can do Rage Powder and then start setting up a Dragon Dance, for example, if you don't have Tailwind. And now Dragonite can all of a sudden sweep, because now you're +1 speed. You can outspeed a lot of the format, if not everything, because if you just go Jolly here, and if you try to outspeed Dragapult, because that's like your main threat, the fastest mon, you just need 143. And that very conveniently gives us a bump over here. So I like that. Then you just go like max attack and then optimize your life orb to 169 over here. And that actually uses up all of our EVs, but hey, that's pretty cool. Max attack here. Excuse me. Dragon Dance, outspeed Dragapult, and then all of a sudden now you got hard hitting Terra Normal E-Speed, so that's kind of cool. And then you got Chien-Pao over here, supporting Dragonite by dropping defenses. Arcanine, you know, Snarl and Will-O-Wisp support, you know, really, really cool. And then Amoonguss, Rage Powder, Spore, good Pokemon to have in Trick Room, you know, just because you can Spore everything, and you know, you make your opponent think twice about clicking Trick Room. But that also doesn't matter, right? Because you have extreme speed. So like, even though they might get their Trick Room Sweeper in position, it still has to survive the extreme speed. So there's that. And then you can just do like Seed Bomb, and then what's another move? And then Protect, right? Something like that. I was just thinking like maybe you could even do like Brute Bonnet here if you don't like the Amoonguss, but I'm just showing you like how to use this 5-man core. And then Flutter Mane, then you could do something like a Focus Sash over here, and then just do like Dazzling Gleam, you know, or even Moonblast, Shadow Ball, Trick Room, and then Protect in the last slot, right? And now all of a sudden, like those other teams that want to click Tailwind on you to counter your Tailwind, or Dragon Dance for that matter, you just click Trick Room, and now you flip the board on them and you start dominating, right? Because now you outspeed everything, and then your Amoonguss can take advantage of that Trick Room as well. So you got a Dragon, you got a Fairy type. I would like a Steel type on here, and I do have a Fire type. I do have a Grass type, so I have the option to also put a Water type here. So, you know, a couple options. You could do Roaring Moon, for example, Dragon Dark type, and then just go for like the Terastallize, something like this. And then you might say like, okay, this is Dragon Dance, and then this could be like a Tailwind Mon, for example, or this could be Tailwind, right? And then Roaring Moon can all of a sudden be Dragon Dance, for example. You know, you have a lot of options depending on what you want to do. But again, you know, it really depends on what you want. Like, I also want to say, like, if you're going Terra Normal here, and then you have Iron Head, like, you can also even swap out the Iron Head for your Dragon Stab, like Dragon Claw, you know, unless you're going for, like, Terra Steel, and then you can go for, like, Iron Head, for example, right? You know, it really depends on what kind of moveset you want. I'm just trying to, like, show you, you know, in terms of team construction, like, what you could do with Dragonite, and the good partners that you can do with it, right? But I'll just go back to Terra Normal because that was the main combination on Dragonite over here. All right, and then, you know, this could be your Terra Steel type, and this could be the Iron Head move, and then this could be like Dragon Claw, all right, for example, and then Protect in the last slot, and then some other move over here, right? But now the problem here with something like this is, you know, I would like some weather. So maybe even like not even Roaring Moon, maybe you just put in like another weather type mon. Maybe you can do something like Murkrow, all right, where like you have Tailwind, and access to Sunny Day. So now Flutter Mane all of a sudden does big damage because now you brought out the sun, and then you can go back to putting Dragon Dance on Dragonite. Okay, this is also another option in your 6th slot, or you could do like a Rotom Wash, where now you have your Fire, Water, Grass core with Arcanine, Amoonguss, and Rotom. So now you have something like Thunderbolt, Hydro Pump, Nasty Plot, and again, you have the redirections to set up your Nasty Plot and then Protect. And this is also kind of good because now you can break through those big bulky water types with Thunderbolt, like a Dundazo or like a Palafin, you know, because other than that, you didn't really have too much super effective damage for those big waters, right? So Rotom can also give you that option too, right? And it gives you another special attacker on the team, right? Because other than like Amoonguss, for example, not even Amoonguss, other than just your Flutter Mane, you didn't really have any special attackers, right? So Rotom gave you a little bit more of a balance in that regard. But yeah, lots of options in this last slot. But you know, this was an interesting core. I'm sure there's other cores revolving around Dragonite, Chien-Pao, Arcanine, and Amoonguss, and then even Flutter Mane here. You could even do like Chi-Yu. Chi-Yu was another good option to have because now Chi-Yu and Flutter Mane, they both complement each other really well, because Beads of Ruin drop special defenses, and then Flutter Mane and Chi-Yu all of a sudden do big damage because you have Heat Wave, and then you also have Dark Pulse. So again, you already have the fire coverage, you already have the dark coverage, so even then maybe Chi-Yu may not be the best option, but it is an option, right? So, you know, it's just like, okay, you have the support for Dragonite, and you can understand why it's doing so well, because with this Terra Normal set, and I'm not even saying that this had a Life Orb, by the way. You know, it could have been another move, maybe like a Berry Recovery move, but again, in terms of the set itself, it was basically Terra Normal with E-Speed, and then just one-shotting a lot of things, especially after like Dragon Dance stuff. So, you know, go figure, take it with a grain of salt. You know, if you want to try out Dragonite with that kind of moveset, you're more than welcome to do so. I think you'll have a lot of success with it, and it's nice to see that something like Dragonite is doing, you know, relatively well in the ladder as of the moment. But honestly, like if you wanted something, you know, just a little bit more stronger or offensive, well, I think I would just take out Dragonite and just put in like Dragapult, or put in you know, something like a Garchomp, and then I think that would be better in my opinion. But again, I can see why Dragonite was doing so. But again, I think, you know, you have a faster dragon with Dragapult, who also gets access to Dragon Dance, right? And then Garchomp is just naturally faster and also has good bulk as well, and it's good. You know, the ground typing is really, really nice. So you have that option there. And I think, you know, just with another flying type with Tailwind, just makes a lot of sense with Garchomp, right? So something even like, I don't know, something like Talonflame could do it. I know we already have an Arcanine, but then you can just switch this out for Gyarados. So something like Talonflame, Chien-Pao, and Garchomp is actually nice. And then you can take out the Gyarados and just, I mean, put out the Arcanine, just put in Gyarados. The only situation here is that you have a lot of physical attackers and Flutter Mane your only special attack option. So maybe that might not be the best idea in terms of like team construction, but you know, it still works too, right? Because you still have your Dragon, Fairy, Steel, Fire, Water, Grass core, right? But yeah, let me know what you think of Dragonite, and let me know what kind of sets you're trying to run right now on the ladder. And like I said, it is live, and let me know if there are any surprises in this top 10 or top 20 list on Picolytics. And again, we'll do another video on the top 10 in the next one, so stay tuned for that one. We'll use the same site, and we'll analyze some of the options here, right? So that's it for now, and we'll be back in the next one, guys. Peace out, have a good one.